Welcome back to the question and answer session for with HeyItsNick and Humech. We talked about the last episode. We talked about 316 Jumptown. We talked about is this a make or break year for CIG, for Star Citizen, and we talked about Squadron 42 expectations. What would you think from it? So if you missed that, check that right over there. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on the podcast, if you listen to this on the podcast, please do, so the previous episode as well. And this is the question and answer. So these are where chat live on Twitch every Saturday at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We'll come on, they'll ask questions in chat and interact with us, and we'll try to answer it live. So come join us there if in the future if you're interested in that on twitch.tv/theastropub. All right. So the first question comes from Normandy Revenge, who asks, how is everyone on the table doing today?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well as well also.
Yeah.
Cheers. I've got water, and I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Despite everything, I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Got coffee in my special, mug that kind of expresses my mood all the time.
I promise I'm holding a drink that you can't tell. So
yeah. All right. Next question comes from Elwook, who asks, does CIG need to cap spending by player or do something similar in good faith to repair their reputation in the gaming industry, in the gaming community? Cap spending, prevent people from spending things?
Spending too much? No, because no. Like, I'm all for like them having to like move all ships to in-game purchases, but telling people no, you can't spend your money on something, like that's out of your reach. No one should be doing that.
Yeah, it's also
that's all a personal decision. Like if someone wants to spend $10,000 pledging for a game, that's up to them. You only have to spend $45 to play this game. So
yeah. And if you put a cap on it, people will find a way around it. People will make a new account and then buy something on the new account. There's no real way to stopping that. A lot of what CIG is doing, they kind of put themselves in a corner because the funding model is ships. Has been, always will be. That's just how they make money. And without a publisher, they need that money to keep flowing in. And the only other way that they can keep that money flowing in is single player experiences that they can sell. That also takes time and effort as well. So they're just kind of in a weird position. Yeah.
It is going to be an interesting to see.
Go ahead.
Who goes ahead?
Go ahead,
Nick. You were saying.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say it will be an interesting transition from when they actually do release a product, have a sellable product, and then they transition what they plan to do to transition for their financing model after that. So it'll be interesting to see if they are gonna. I would be okay if they release concept ships continuously and it's like you guys can buy this pledges, but maybe kind of just like only as those ones. And then once they release, they're actually in game immediately for in game purchase.
Mm-hmm.
I would be okay with that. Not some of this, not this okay, maybe the next 1 or 2 patches you could buy it in game, but like immediately when it's ready, it's in game purchasable because of the people who bought it. I would be okay with that. I would be way more okay with them. I know they said they wouldn't do this, but I would be way more okay if they made it subscription only. I mean, I would be way more than okay with that if it avoided any kind of possibility of all this extra stuff and BS from happening to kind of unbalance the economy through just people having lots of money and using that lots of money. I mean, they can try to restrict alpha UEC purchased on each account, but then you'll just have people who will be like, well, I'll just make multiple accounts and then just point all the alpha UEC to my character. Like there's ways around everything. So, I mean, I think if they just want to, I would be more okay with that kind of funding model in the transition, but I think that's going to be one good conversation to have when we get there on that transition.
Yeah. Humech?
Yeah, certainly on the subscription model, I think overall just the experience of Star Citizen would be better if we all were required to pay $10 a month or so to play the game, and ships were not purchasable with real money at release. Though I do like the idea of concept sales being a thing. And then once the concept is over, you can never pay actual money for it again. But there is always concern of gambling addiction and anything like that with any sort of transaction with real money. So yeah, it would be nice to just keep it all in game. And for the experience that it is, it's completely worth $10 a month. So
I mean, from a financial point of view, I don't think subscription model works. I think an optional subscription model would work, but I don't think it's going to happen just because there's no games, no MMOs that use subscription models anymore.
MMO doesn't, or I'm sorry, WoW doesn't.
WoW is the
Final Fantasy 14 doesn't, and that has like that's like one of the biggest MMOs right now.
Yeah, but those two are the biggest.
So it's an accessibility issue.
Yeah, those two are the biggest MMOs, so they don't have to really worry about because people will pay it up for those event things. But like outside of those two big ones, there's almost no MMO that does. They do buy to play or free to play.
It makes it harder to.
No one plays them anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
But
people are still playing WoW and Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, but making a subscription model won't make more people do it. They tried the subscription model with like Star Wars: The Old Republic, and they still lost people. They actually gained more people when they went free to play. So
yeah, I was part of that whole game release and like community upset at them changing it to a free to play model because it felt like it was just a half-assed sort of thing because they didn't plan it out, and then all of a sudden it was free to play, and then all the good content was now blocked, and I spent like $200+ on that game, and then all of a sudden it was free, and so that felt like a burn.
The one MMO I played, it did the opposite of that. It started out free to play with a paid subscription. It turned super pay to win, and then they released Arcade Unchained, which was then their paid subscription model, and it removed all that pay to win. And they did the opposite of that, and there was a big influx of people going to it, and they're like, if this game released like this, it wouldn't have had any of those issues, and it would have actually had a strong player base. But
I remember RJ. I played it when it was free, just for a bit.
So yeah, it's really it's kind of interesting to see like where the state of free to play and the buy to play and paid subscriptions are right now, because I feel like a lot of people say paid subscriptions are dead, but then I feel like once you actually see the benefits of paying a subscription for games like Final Fantasy 14, Arcade, the differences between Arcade free to play, which is super pay to win, and the Arcade Unchained, which is a very fair game for everyone, I think it kind of really leads itself to benefit a lot of players and have them see that, yeah, you know, I think I would rather pay a subscription than deal with all this other stuff that I wouldn't want to deal with.
I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, because Star Citizen wants to be as much like Star Citizen gains funding right now every time they do a free flight. They gain a ton of new people every time they do a free flight, but that's only because people are not interested in the game until they play it. It's one of those games where it's going to always have that stigma over it of that it was this, you know, $400 million game. Even when it comes out, then people are just going to say, oh, it's pay to win because you can get an Idris, and not understand how the game actually functions. It'll take a long time for Star Citizens, the stigma surrounding Star Citizen, to evaporate to the point where they can even discuss other alternative models. But you know,
especially because it was promised that it wouldn't be a subscription only model, so that they're kind of tied there.
So. All right. Next question comes from Steve B. Dancer, who asks, do you feel they need to start taking care of the tech debt they keep creating?
Tech debt.
For those of you who don't know tech debt is a catch-all term that basically just means that, like, say in
scope creep.
It's more like, say in 3.17 they release everything they want to, but they don't quite fix like a certain problem with like a bug, or they don't finish making the hangars. They kind of have something else that they have to do, and so they kind of cut off of the hangars, so you don't get the full access to all your hangars. And they said, we'll get back to it when we free up more time in the next patch. But then something else comes in, and then that also there's another problem with, say, a gun or with a ship that they need to go back and they say, oh, we'll do that. And then it just piles up. Like the amount of stuff that needs to go back to and fix gets piled up, but it can never go back to it because it's already been fixed as good as it possibly was. And then then you eventually have this pile of things you have to go back to. That's what they're talking about. So
my opinion, all of that tech debt needs to happen during polish phase for the game. Once it's at a point where the Star Citizen is getting close to beta or is in beta, then they can work on those extra things that were either promised or set to the side, and hopefully it all shows up at the same time at release. But I would say I don't care about it until we're in a beta state.
It's also important to remember that a lot of tech debt is what the tech debt is complicated because if your mobiGlass is busted, like the mobiGlass in Star Map is busted, and it has that weird thing where you can't, like, the zoom in problems and all those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't matter to be fixed because they're going to completely replace the map. So there's no point in going in and trying to fix that. It's just leave it as it is. But that is tech debt because it could be fixed. It has some issues it can go back into. So
it is semi-functional though. If it becomes a problem where I can no longer navigate to say between Hurston and Crusader, then it becomes an issue. But for now, I can still do that. So I'm okay with that.
And
right now the functionality is there. It's just it's not good. It's not good. It's buggy, but you can still work around it. You can still use it. So it's not kind of broken and they need it fixed now, but they're waiting on it to get somewhere else because they need to deal with some other things first before they can deal with that. It's just one of those things where it's just like, like the Star Map, it's just they're reworking it. They're completely rebuilding it from scratch to have it be more in line with probably what they have with the Star Map on the website. So why work on the quantum travel problems now when that's going to be addressed when they do the full Star Map rework? So
and they're doing like physicalized quantum now soon. So like why fix the quantum issues now when you've got an entirely new system that's coming in?
Yeah, a good example of that is the speeder bikes. They were awful for years. Hated them. And I've always loved the concept of being able to fly some sort of gravlev bike along the ground in like a fun way. As a motorcyclist, that stuff just really excites me. So like, bless David Coulson for doing what he did, but like all of a sudden we just got some whole new way of dealing with and flying the speeder bikes, and they're now usable and fun. And I don't really have any criticisms for them. I think they're good within their limitations. And that was just a state of it's broken, completely unusable. I like that it's going to be a thing, and now all of a sudden it's usable. I like that type of workflow, to be honest. I'd rather them revamp something holistically than tinker away at it, fixing a current system just to make people happy about it.
Yeah, and as well with the inventory system, when that got fully replaced, that kind of also like set in the precedent for, along with the Gravlev vehicle, of like CIG will do it, they will fix it, it will be good, and it's not a matter of if they're going to get to it or not; it's a matter of when they're going to get to it, just due to the scheduling. But with a studio with 1,200 people, in the future, they should hopefully get to these issues faster.
The last thing we talked about with this 1,200 people studio. So people are pointing in chat that what I just mentioned wasn't tech debt. It's not tech debt, but some people will think it's tech debt. That's the thing. Like that's the reality is that there are tech debts out there. There's like mining has its own tech debt because it's got a bunch of stuff left over that wasn't finished and needs to go back and get reworked. But they actually have dedicated teams that go back and do tech debt. One of the things that I've discovered by studying how CIG does their development, they have their whole team, like each studio has its own team, each team has their own teams, and each team has a upstream and downstream component. Sometimes they have an entire team that just does upstream, some entire team that does downstream. And so if this team, say the USPU team, is waiting on the tools team to finish tools before they can fix the next thing they want to do, then they'll take that time and go back and work on tech debt and fix problems because they have 6 months for their kind of segment of what they're working on to work on it, which gives them time to take vacations and all sorts of things. So it gives them more time to go back and fix things or experiment with new ideas if they're waiting on the upstream team to finish a big component for their next project. So as a result, we don't really have a lot of tech debt in Star Citizen. Mostly what we have is placeholder systems that need to be replaced. So, yeah, an engine team has a deliverable called bug fixing and tech debt. Yeah, so it's literally in the roadmap.
Just fix the game. The whole thing.
Just fix the game.
If it's the engine, it's the engine team. It's a bunch of Germans who are very, very dedicated to making the game work. So yeah, I believe if someone's just going to fix the game, I think it's Frankfurt.
Don't disturb the Germans. Give them beer. Lock them in a room. Just let them be.
Steve B. Dancer asks, do you feel that once they release Squadron 42 for PC, they will roll the money into port it to console?
I think a console port is very possible. I mean, way back, they originally had the PS4 dev kit, and they were testing it on the PS4 hardware, but they realized that the PS4 hardware wasn't actually capable to run Star Citizen. However, with the new PS5 and Xbox One hardware, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't revisit it and at least plan it out into the future for a Star Citizen release on console in the future, but not as a release.
It's just leaving money on the table. If they don't do it, they can hire a team to port it and make money.
I can see Theaters of War or something like that going into a console. Maybe not the entire MMO, but Squadron 42, absolutely.
Gin Tonic says in chat, waiting for Paul to say every Chris Roberts title has been released on console. Every Wing Commander has been released on console. Freelancer has not. It's the only one that hasn't. But I think even Privateer was on console. But yeah, every single Chris Roberts Wing Commander game has been onto a console. Every one. So the reality that Star Citizen or Squad 42 is definitely going to go on a console at some point. We don't know
for sure.
It's just not going to come out right away. It's going to be released on PC, and then they'll find a way to port it later. I even don't think we're going to see it on Steam, because I think that's just putting it onto Steam would be like giving Valve money for no reason.
It's literally saying, here, take our money for no reason. They have their store, it works, they don't need it.
Yeah,
it comes down to that momentum thing. Like, people who care about Star Citizen already know to go to their website, download their launcher, and a lot of games like this have their own launchers, so it's not like it's unusual.
And the amount of news stories coming out about Star Citizen, negative or positively, they're all linking to like the CIG website. So
sure, yeah, it's all good press.
No such thing as bad press as long as they spell your name right.
Yeah,
that's the rule, and that seems to be the case. Like, I swear to God, every time there's a new article out there where it's like Star Citizen raises X $million, no release in sight, like suddenly the funding goes whoop. It's like either people are spite buying or new people are finding the game and going, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like,
I'm surprised people can think for themselves.
And I do think that Squadron 42 will show up on Steam, but I think it'll show up on Steam like a year after it's already been released, physically. Because then at that point, it's like, well, we'll just get the rest of the people who have never heard of this damn thing.
I think
on Steam.
They got to get the money first.
I think they would put it more so on the Epic, if they could put it on the Epic Game Store, because they have a much better cut. They would get a much better cut.
Epic will pay them to do it too. That's the thing. Like, Epic will pay CIG to put it on their store, because that's what Epic does. So
Epic release first, then maybe a year or two Steam.
Also, don't forget, it's an Amazon Lumberyard game. If they could spread that all over, Amazon could maybe want to spread that all over Amazon. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon pitches in for some of the advertising for Squadron 42, because it's on their engine. So all right, next question comes from speaking of the engine, from Stevie Dancer, who asks, do you feel once they start the next game in the series, they will change from Lumberyard to a different game engine? No.
Way too much investment in this.
I mean, by next game, do they mean the next story arc or their whole next entirely new game?
next game in the series. So next Squadron 42 Part
series.
2.
Okay. Part 2, yeah, no, they're not going to. No, they're not going to do that. No, but I wouldn't be surprised if they switched to Unreal Engine 5 if they were making a new IP.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make a new IP. I think Cloud Imperium Games is going to make Star Citizen and Star Citizen related games for the rest of eternity, as long as they can keep the lights on. Yeah,
I think Lumberyard will get as much use out of it as possible. They've spent a decade now working on figuring out what their engine is and how their technology is going to be, and integrating all these things into a ridiculously complex online game through server meshing and all that. All that investment is not just going to get thrown out the window. A new engine would require a whole new set of programming. So no, that's not going away.
Yeah, I mean, a good example of this, of why people change engines, would be looking at Piranha Games when they made MechWarrior Online with the Crytek engine, and they had the same problem that everybody has with Crytek, that they're bad company and they don't know how to support their engine, and they've kind of gotten desperate. So when they came for them to make MechWarrior 5, they said, let's just build it in a new engine. And so they just exported all their assets and then revamped it into build it with a new engine with Unreal. And it runs a lot better on Unreal, I'll say that.
Yeah, but that's the move.
That's that. But the reason why they would do that is because they just didn't have the support. CIG literally has people who built the original Cry engine, like original creators of the Cry engine, working for them in their Frankfurt studio. Like, there's no reason for them to change engines when they basically have their own engine, their own version of Cry engine with that they could constantly update. The Lumberyard thing was more of a, we want access to AWS and, better working environment.
And from what I can tell, they're completely legally separated from Crytek and CryEngine now. There's no reason for them to even keep the engine at all similar to Crytek.
Yeah. I just feel like they're definitely until like the day like Star Citizen closes down, which will probably not be for like another 20 years, 25 years. It'll probably be a quarter century game, if that, or if longer. But I feel like until this tech gets old and they think about making a new game, they're not going to consider a new engine.
Yeah.
No. And let me put it this way: the Crytek engine is not a bad engine, but it doesn't have any support from Crytek. That's the problem. Like the Cry engine is fine. It's just when that's
a great engine. It's pretty.
Yeah, it does a lot of things that Unreal can't do or doesn't do well. Each engine has their own advantages. It's just when Crytek themselves aren't supporting it effectively, then there's no point in using an engine that doesn't have support. That's why Unreal gets a lot of love, because it's not just a good engine, but it also has all of I think it's owned by Epic Studios, isn't it? It's like Epic themselves own Unreal, so they've got the money.
That's what they use for their games.
Yeah, it's the dosh that they use to like completely support it and keep making new stuff for it. So
yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Askabar1, who asks, what's the first thing you plan to do with the BMM when it comes out? For me, I'm going to be ramming it directly into an 890 jump and see who lives. Humech, what about you? What are you going to do when the BMM comes out?
I'm going to go see how it flies on Crusader. It's going to be awful, but
it'll look cool.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I will definitely be seeing how nice the explosions are.
Yeah.
Low flying for sure. I want a low fly of BMM.
I'm
do a barrel roll.
What I'll probably do is see what I can fit in the hangar, and then see if I can dock whatever that is, the biggest thing possible, into the hangar while moving at top speed.
Naturally.
Oh yeah, because the hangar has that door that has that garage door that comes down.
It's like and then opens up like that, Yeah,
and then it comes down, and you gotta go in this little hole, but it goes into the giant cargo hold. So what could you fit in there?
Yeah,
you just gotta get it through that hole.
The one thing that everyone's going to do is to see how well it explodes and how pretty it looks when it blows up. That's what's going to happen.
I would like to do some bounty missions and just ram people with it. I think that's fun.
Mm-hmm. Have
Good.
Go set up some like RP like trade stop. Like, hey, you guys want to just come buy some things here?
Well, that's another point.
Sit out by ports and just be like, hey, you guys want to come on and look at my things? What do you want to buy? You know, especially in inventory. You can just drop things out.
Yeah. Put it out in little tables.
Just drop it on the table. Here you go. Send me the UEC.
That's the thing, though. I think that when the BMM comes out, we'll have the mechanics for trading, like setting up the BMM as a trade port or a trade station.
The mobile bazaar is on. That's what
I mean. It would be just the buying. It would really they already have it in the colors black now, right? Where you can have that shared storage.
Yeah.
Right. So it's pretty much that, except making it so that you're setting prices for items in your inventory and people are just buying that. And then you just have to have like your currency saved in that as well. But outside of that, that's all you would need.
Well,
at least for testing.
It's not just that, though, because it's also NPCs being able to go up and knowing that you have a shop going in and buying the stuff from it as well. So I think it'll probably work the same way, because I think NPCs work the same way as players with that, where like they can access the inventory and such. Mm-hmm. All right, next question comes from Pacecape, who asks, is there a chance Pyro, Nyx, etc. will be playable before server meshing and all that good stuff?
Doubt it.
No.
I doubt it.
That's a hard no for me.
Unless they want to completely separate them, where you cannot jump between them, and it's its own system that you log in from the menu. That's the only way I could see it actually getting into the game, but I doubt they're going to want to do that.
You know, they might be their own separate servers. I think that's what the first initial static meshing is, their own separate servers, but they're going to be meshed together so that you're loading between them in game, not through a menu.
But my other concern, though, is Pyro is so big that Stanton already is. It's performant enough, but I couldn't imagine it being any bigger. So Pyro may just require server meshing to exist. I don't know how big Nyx is, though.
Yeah, I think they're both that big. I think Nyx is almost as big as Pyro, if not bigger. The other thing is like the ability, the amount of time it would take to build the systems, make them working, and then code them in so that you log in from the menu at that point. That amount of work seems like a lot of work for something that they're like on the edge of getting done. Like, I
have no idea what that would entail.
Like I don't know how much it would entail, but whenever I always try to catch myself when I say something like, oh, it's pretty simple. What I usually have to say is like, it's using the current tech that they already have, kind of caveat, because nothing in gaming is simple. Nothing in programming is simple. It always takes a lot longer than you realize, not just to develop, but also to test and implement. So
Nyx is 39 AU. Okay, yeah, it's big.
It's twice the size of Pyro. So that's to give you a concept.
Yeah. Definitely server meshing then.
Yeah. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to do it anyways, because 50 people in that huge of an area just doesn't make a lot of sense either. So.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah. No.
Jumptown's the only reason why Crusader feels big again. So,
yeah,
just because there's a lot of people going down to Jumptown or Ninetales, which I keep missing Ninetales.
Yeah, imagine Jumptown though,
same here.
Just with only 3 systems and server meshing with larger player numbers. Oh, that's gonna be. Oh, they really need to make that dynamic.
Yeah,
before they do that,
100 players chilling at Jumptown. The server. But like, nope, mine now. The amount of just sheer nonsense that'll happen on that shard when 200 player orgs decide they want Jumptown. Like, all right, cool. I'm not going to come anywhere near that.
No one's getting any money now.
The scrap alone will bury that outpost. Like you have to like move the scrap with like a tractor beam just to get to the entrance, because someone crashed an Idris on it.
Being a salvager would be more profitable than trying to go get Jumptown.
Landing gears everywhere from blown up ship.
All right. Next question comes from Ionic Gecko, who asks, if a major feature is delayed to next year, what would hurt you the most? Which feature would hurt me the most if it was delayed next year? I guess persistence. No. I'll change my mind. Gen 12 renderer. If they had to delay that long, I would be very hurt.
Yes. Yes, that one. It's a performance issue, and not everybody has a hot rod of a PC. I agree. Definitely Gen 12 renderer. And I'm noticing, since I'm an all AMD build, I'm noticing some weird stuff going on visually compared to NVIDIA cards I've had. So, need it.
Yeah, I'm still rocking a 1080, so that would be good. But my game-breaking one is actually the static server meshing. That's kind of the one that's going to be like, I need to see this work. I need to see this working.
To me, that would be massively disappointing, but I'd understand because it's not been done before.
Yeah, not to the scale and to the degree that CIG wants. So yeah.
That's why I said the static one, the first one, not the dynamic. Dynamic, I know is going to be an entire cluster of worms that they need to get into. But if it's just a static between a few servers, statically hard coded between them, then I feel like if they miss the ball on that, then I'm going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Are you doing?
By the way, correction.
Videos if not.
Nix is 11 AU, not 39 AU. So that's about the same size as Pyro is 13 AU. So it's about the same size. It's still twice the size of Stanton. So
still big enough to need some meshing going on.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Mount Stunner, who asks, what elements that could get complicated this year do you think would lead to the greatest amounts of new gameplay for us? Ooh. Or completed. I'm sorry, not completed. Completed. What elements that could be completed this year would lead to the greatest amounts of gameplay?
Being able to sell our loot would be small and very impactful, I think. I find myself collecting loot compulsively, and it's fun, and mainly just to make sure I have equipment everywhere.
Fellow loot goblin.
For sure. Constantly.
I feel like the biggest thing, though, for me is going to be the cargo refactor. Because once we get physicalized cargo and we can disable ships, stop the ships, board the ships, and steal and loot, then piracy will be a real thing and not just killing people till they blow up. People are actually going to be able to stop you and pirate you and take your stuff for profit. So that's going to be I feel like the biggest kind of change is the cargo refactor that will add an entire level of gameplay that isn't really done right now or able to be done right now.
It's a difference between just getting into dogfights to get into dogfights. Now it's like, you might have something valuable on board. I don't want to lose that. Can I convince you to give it to me, violently or otherwise? Oh my God.
Arms.
I don't want to work.
I think I'm gonna say, gosh, it was in my brain, then I lost it. The more
refactor.
No, the more, what is it called? The Quanta. More stuff being on the Quanta system.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So like we can actually start seeing that happening, but also like more NPCs that we can interact with, like the missions being more based off of the dynamic nature of the universe. That could start this year. And I think that will change a lot, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm used to go here, get mission, do thing, bada bing, bada boom, I'm done. And that,
it's all empty feeling.
And that also ties in with the server meshing with because once the Quanta turn into subsumption, they're eventually going to be ran on their own separate server, so they're not going to be bogging down the server the players are on. So that's a whole other can of worms too. There's so many cans of worms.
Yeah, that's why this year seems very very make or break almost, because a lot of the tech they're just implementing three major things right now, which is the finishing up the Gen 12 renderer, the persistence, and server meshing. There's other things, obviously, but those three things are just, they like explode into like 1,000 different things that will happen in Star Citizen as a result. Just persistence alone will cause, like, is the beginning of the shard system, which will then allow you to persist everything. Should be able to log out anywhere and log back in anywhere. 30K is officially dead is dead. Like there's so many things that will change. Like where you don't just like log out and be like, ah, cool, I'll just end up back at the station after I'm done. It's like, no, you'll be back there on the planet when you log back in because you logged out on the planet. You know,
Yeah.
Hope you have enough oxygen and your ship comes back. You know.
I test that all the time. You almost always end up by the star. If you log off in bed on a planet, you'll spawn in at the center of Stanton. But if you're in deep space, you'll be fine. You'll show up where you are. Almost.
But
always.
I mean, in the future with persistence, like now, if you like log out, if you just log out, not log out like in a bed, but like you just log out of the game, you'll just respawn back at the last place you were.
Oh, no, that would be nice.
But in persistence, with persistence coming out, when you log out, say in Daymar's surface, you just log out. You don't get into the bed. You just exit the game. Then the next time you pop in, you just pop back in where you were at Daymar's surface. It's like, well, how am I going to get back? So
yeah,
I think they should also introduce maybe a escape option so that you can't really, and just kind of disable the ability to backspace if they're gonna have that in. I feel like they should have an unstuck button that you could use like every 30, maybe with a 30-minute cooldown to get out of situations that you might be stuck in. But
unstuck would be great.
But
falling through the planet or whatever.
I feel like if they're gonna release persistence like that, they should also remove the I'm gonna just backspace and respawn at a hospital instantly.
Yeah,
to get out of the situation.
Make people work it if they want to kill themselves. Yeah.
Right. It's like, no, get a space Uber. Come on. We have beacons for a reason.
We have the
Send
technology. Speaking of Quanta, just with 316's change to having in-atmosphere bounties, that for some reason makes Quanta feel more real in my brain of just imagining more ships coming and going from outposts and whatnot, piloted by NPCs. And it grounds me a lot more into the game when I'm going after a bounty in Atmo. So excited to see what Quanta will do for us.
Yeah, I mean, because like for right now, it's CS1 bounties. First level bounties are always going to be starter ships. In the future, the CS1 bounty isn't going to be based off the ship; it's going to be based off the criminal. So you may have to. So it's no longer going to be like, oh, they're going to be in this Aurora. Now they may be in a Starfarer, but you don't just shoot the Starfarer. It's just one dude who's on the ship, so you're gonna have to figure out how to get to him, kind of thing. Yeah,
there might be innocent people on that Starfarer, and they're riding along, and nobody knows that they have a crime stat.
I mean, that's already how it is with player bounties. You get a bounty for a player, and you show it to it, and it's like, oh, they're actually in a hammerhead with 6 people.
Absolutely.
You're like, it's just the one guy who messed up and got a crime stat for this entire party, but you got his bounty. So you're like, what am I gonna do? Well, they're definitely gonna protect him, but I can't shoot first.
We'll abandon that mission.
Yep. Next.
All right. Next question comes from Ionic Gecko, who asks, with the full Gen 12 implementation, do you think we'll see volumetric clouds on Hurston and ArcCorp?
I mean, they already have that tech in. I think it's just a matter of them actually taking the time to transfer it over and to convert the old clouds to the new cloud texture. I think
that could happen now. It's a matter of like building the art for it and getting it into the asset. I don't think that Gen 12 would halt that or make it happen.
It'll make
it more performant.
Yeah,
that's about it.
I think they may hold back on some of the implementations just until they have it fully in, but I think we'll definitely see volumetric clouds in Hurston and ArcCorp as soon as they can put them in, because they want to, because they're cool. It didn't seem like it was much of an issue. It didn't seem like it was much of an issue for Microtech. Like they literally put it in the next patch after they put in the volumetric clouds for Crusaders. So. I'd imagine that internal builds, they already have it working. It's just a matter of, does it help with performance or hurt with performance? And so, I guess
Microtech has a much more Earth-like atmosphere. So I think Microtech was simple for them to just sort of like, okay, let's make it look like Earth clouds. It's white clouds, all that sort of thing. Whereas Crusader, it's a much more of an art-driven thing. It may be for Hurston and ArcCorp too.
Yeah, Hurston's going to be a lot more just brown.
Yeah.
soot
Well, yeah.
clouds.
They also really want to do rain on ArcCorp. Like they obviously want to do rain. So
yes.
And they also may be waiting on like tech for like rain tech or other things like that to make that work. So
That's so extra, but they would. They would.
I also know CIG mentioned that ArcCorp isn't supposed to be entirely all city. There are supposed to be oceans on it.
Mhm.
So that's going to probably wait until like a whole rework of ArcCorp.
Underwater cities, BioShock, and Star Citizen. Yes, please.
Yeah. All right. We got 4 more questions left. Del Inar asks, what would you like to see added to ship fight / combat systems this year? Mine's simple. Damage types. More variety of damage types like radiation and essentially that whole thing, which leads to armor, and like the swap over from damage being like you've got a health pool to being like your component health matters most. So
if actually
Was this
physicalized
FPS or
damage
ships?
For ships, the ship fight /
Oh,
combat.
okay. Yeah, that would be interesting if like is it tachyon plasma gun or something like that? If that would do radiation damage or something, that would be cool.
and also acid or something like that.
Mhm.
That'd be cool. Just be
Acid
like,
spitter ship.
we're just be like we're gonna shoot acid plasma to melt these armors and stuff. But no, I'm really excited for the actual physicalized damage where you can actually destroy components and off ships, where the act of it'll be a lot more common to disable a ship through damage and through both distortion, so that you can actually have that thought to yourself of, do I just need to disable this ship, or am I actually trying to kill this person? So then the act of killing someone is actually one of intent versus just
obligation. It feels weird being a bounty hunter and just killing people constantly.
Yeah.
So that or pirating, sometimes you just want the goods, you know?
Someone's asking, is physicalized damage supposed to make it this year? No, it's not. There's nothing that indicates it, but there are discussions they've been having and they've been talking about it, that it seems like it's being worked on. And I think it's on it may be on the progress tracker as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have anything on the roadmap for the last 2 quarters, last half of this year yet.
Yeah, which should happen at the end of this month. So
I feel like that's determined on ships going gold standard as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ships that just haven't been touched with anything like that. And there's 100 plus at this point?
Yeah.
That are fightable.
Well, a lot of them are also variants. So like when they say 100 plus, they also count like all of the 300 variants, all of the Aurora variants, all of the Mustang variants. Okay. So they it's actually more like 50, but like
still a lot.
It's still a lot. Yeah. That's a good question, Christiane. We'll ask that. Will CIG put any limits to prevent huge pirate org domination when meshing shard limit is put into place? Example, now 30 to 40 people group dominate Jumptown, shard, bubble when meshing comes, with no chance of to compete because player limit is 50 now for the server.
That's my concern with in real life money purchases is my concern in general for Star Citizen is an org being able to completely dominate a place. Maybe good, maybe bad, but
I feel like once the game systems are there, they'll eventually be escalated to have, NPCs show up who are actually capable of fighting, so that it's just like, okay, this massive pirate org is pirating people. Okay, the UE is going to send two Idrises and a Bengal over there and a lot of fighters and try and stomp them out because they're just being too controlling and no players can get in there. So game systems should eventually kick in to be like, we need to stop this.
Yeah, that would solve it for sure.
And even if we had something like a Jumptown in like Pyro, you'd have other rival gangs which are also trying to make their mark. So, you'd have maybe Xenothreat show up and be like, hey, stop squatting on our territory, and then I'd slap them,
If it's all one shard, then yeah, absolutely that can happen. Because if it's 50 players just in a server, then of course they can dominate it super fast. So
But I also think that, it's important to remember that the way that they want to do the game is they want to have, at the very least, a shard for every single area, and have at least 100 players per server, not per shard, but 100 players per server. So the idea being that you have a shard that might have 10,000 players or 100,000 players or 1 million players in that shard, but each server is kind of separated. We just don't have a full understanding of how CIG wants to do their servers yet, because they don't know the upper limits of the experience. So they're still kind of waiting on that.
Relying on the UEE is definitely a good point, though, as far as just in-game, how they all manage things like that.
Yeah, they'll to a degree they want that to happen, but they want to happen in specific locations. So, like they don't mind, like if an org is managing to control, like dominate an entire system because they just have that many people, get a number of people and go fight that org in that system.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're supposed to do. You're not guaranteed gameplay. It's what the nature of the open world. So,
exactly.
All right. Next question comes from Trouble Magnet, who asks, will the BMM be a good ground vehicle transport, or will the Hercules still be better?
Hercules, for sure.
We don't even know about the ground vehicle capacity of the BMM, so I would definitely say the Hercules right now.
That's a floating shop. That's not really...
Yeah, because the vending merchantman only has that one kind of lift elevator to get vehicles in. I don't think that's going to be big enough for at least... It wouldn't fit a ballista in it, I would think, so...
Yeah, and you can fit like 3 ballistas in a Hercules, so like you can cat logic the hell out of a Hercules. I don't think you're going to want to put cat logic in with a lift in the vehicle like a bandit merchantman. So the real issue is the Liberator, not the bandit merchantman. The Liberator is going to be the one that's going to make the Hercules much less viable. But
I imagine they'll be used in tandem a lot.
Yeah. The Hercules can also land in hot zones. The Liberator is a giant brick.
The Liberator still has 3 of its pads exposed.
Yeah.
And it's just like if the Hercules is contained, you have nothing exposed.
Hercules is more of a hot zone drop, but not super hot. And then Liberator's far back. The vehicles it drops are going to travel a while.
Yeah, the Liberator is much more for transporting base of operations than actually hot zone drops.
Yeah. All right, last 2 questions. Steve V. Dancer asks, with the hand tractor beam out and the video of the ship tractor beams, do you feel SRVs will be released this year? Yeah. As long as I think the SRV might be the first ship that comes out when we have ship tractor beams, just because it's a giant showcase. And it's just a souped up Argo cargo. It's just an MPUV with a giant tractor beam on its butt. That's all it is.
Yep.
And a lot of what we've been doing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Okay. A lot of what we've been doing is game loops that require the tractor beams. So I think in a sense they're getting a ton of data from tractor beam use, and they're sort of proving it as a concept for the ship. So I think we'll see it quite soon.
Yeah. Also, when the tractor beams come online, we'll also have probably the tractor beam for the Caterpillar and the Drake Cutlass Black come online too. So that'd be good to see. Yeah.
And the other thing to remember is that the Argo line is getting fleshed out a lot. We had the MPUV, we had the Mole, and then we had the Raft. So like they already have that standard set, so it wouldn't be pretty difficult for them to pump that out there.
I love the Raft. Like I don't own one. I don't think I will own one, but I love the interior of the Raft. I think they really have the style down for Argo. So
it's best.
It's perfect.
Next to the 400i, it's the best designed interior of the game, hands down.
I could easily live on the Raft. I could be like, this is my home. Like I can sit there, chill, watch TV there. Like that's how I feel like when I get in a Raft, and it's just like and walk around it. It's just like I can see myself actually living in it.
It's like an apartment. It's an apartment that also transports cargo. It's just amazing. So.
With room to put up a Christmas tree or whatever if you wanted to like decorate it.
Yeah,
it's like an actual human space.
Yeah, it feels like you could live in it, which is nice. Which is I always say that's something that CIG's been doing a lot. Is like a lot of spaces, like the 400i and the Raft are big examples of like CIG is designing spaces that look like they're livable rather than just being, we got to cram a bed in here somewhere. So, all right. Last question comes from Cordath, who asks, do you think they will still release the whole A in Q1 or wait for the cargo refactor in 3.18?
I think they'll release it. I don't.
Even without cargo.
I don't think it needs the cargo refactor for it to be working. Because the cargo refactor is to physicalize the cargo. You can still slot in cargo without the cargo refactor. So and their ships are generally released on time. So
yeah, you're right. The docking is also in existence, so I don't see why the whole series can't exist.
I don't think the whole C is, because the whole C can't land with its full when it's fully laden, but the whole A can. So we may
laden.
Yeah. It can carry, because it's got these two side booms rather than the quad booms. It only has two, and it carries.
I thought it had the quads.
Nah, it's got the two, just the two. So when it lands. It has the booms on the side. So I think we may have a situation where the whole A is done and released, but you can't remove the booms. So you always
same
have.
As the raft.
Same as the raft. So you've got these giant cargo containers that are on the side of your ship that you can't remove and you can't close it down, but it's always going to be like that because you can do, for both of those. So
it's a big sail that you're going to be flying in that mode.
Yeah.
Sounds awful.
I don't want to be flying that. I'm not the big bare bones cargo runner. I'm more of a FPS guy. So
I think it'll be fun. But I could still see it getting slipped if CIG is like, no, we don't want to release like that. But CIG's, the same kind of people who they did release a raft. It was technically usable, so toss it out there. So.
Yeah. And that got lots of criticism, but honestly, I'm glad they released it because it's just an enjoyable ship to be in and see, and it looks cool.
Yeah.
The raft is actually a good example of my point of, like, they can still release it. They can still it still has the cargo capacity. Cargo still works right now. You don't need to wait for the entire rework for them to put out the ship.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we just got rated by Subliminal at the end, but we're finishing up. So that was the end of our question and answer session. Thank you all for joining us here tonight at the Astropub. If you enjoy this content, we are live every Saturday from 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC, where we do all of these these content with hands.
Jesus. It's doing stupid shit.
But yeah, feel free to join us there, us here live. Make sure that you're watching Nick and Humech and on their respective social medias and channels and YouTube and such. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
Thank you. Bye.
Later, y'all.
Bye.